Phil Mickelson's secret $60 million backdoor PGA Tour return, blocked by Tiger Woods. This isn't a rumor. It is the most ruthless power play since the 2022 LIV exodus. One legend tried sneaking back into the clubhouse through the side door, and the other personally bolted it shut. And honestly, the pure audacity makes your blood boil. Regular working-class fans are grinding overtime just to afford a Sunday pass at a local muni. Yet these country club elites think they can walk away with $200 million in bloated Saudi blood money and then cry foul when they can't steal a spot from a hungry rookie grinding on the Corn Ferry Tour. It is the peak entitlement of a man who burned every bridge and now expects a ferry back to shore. But look past the surface hypocrisy. Phil Mickelson isn't just greedy or entitled, he is financially terrified. The LVIV liquidity mirage is evaporating, and that $60 million price tag isn't just a fine, it represents something far more dangerous. Tiger Woods didn't just vote no. There's a reason he personally made sure the door stayed locked. Let me show you what really happened behind closed doors, why Phil's agents were quietly making calls, and how the tour built a trap that caught the biggest name in golf. But the real question isn't why Phil wanted back. It's why Tiger made damn sure he couldn't. Personally, I think Tiger was right to protect the tour's meritocracy, but do you think Phil deserves a second chance? Tell me below. And if you actually care about golf's power dynamics and the real stories behind the headlines, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. Now let's get one thing straight from the start. Phil Mickelson didn't wake up one morning and decide to fill out a membership application. What actually happened was much quieter, much sneakier, and much more desperate than anyone in the media is telling you. Think about this for a second. The man who left the PGA Tour in 2022 with a $200 million Saudi contract, the man who called the tour's leadership obnoxiously greedy in public interviews, the man who told the world he was never coming back, that same man suddenly had his people making quiet calls to the very organization he spent 2 years trashing. Why would he do that? See, when Phil signed that massive LIV contract, he didn't just get a paycheck, a promise that the Saudi Public Investment Fund would build something lasting, something that would compete with the PGA Tour for decades. And for a while, that promise looked solid. LIV signed big names. They built a schedule. They threw money at everything that moved. Phil Mickelson is 55 years old. He's not a young guy who can afford to wait out a 5-year contract and then transition back slowly. His body won't let him grind through Q school or play 30 events a season like the 20-somethings. He needs a safe landing spot, and he needs it soon. So his people started asking questions, quiet questions, back-channel questions, not begging, not pleading, just testing the temperature. Is there a path back? What would it take? Could we make this work without making a big scene? But here's where it gets really interesting. Those quiet calls didn't happen in a vacuum. While Phil's agents were trying to figure out if the door was open, something else was happening on the other side. Something that would make Phil's return not just difficult, but effectively impossible. Because the PGA Tour had been watching LIV players very carefully. And they had been planning. See, the PGA Tour had a problem. They had a bunch of players who left for LIV Golf. And now those players were starting to wonder if they'd made a mistake. Some of them were calling agents, some were talking to lawyers, some were just asking around to see if there was a way back. The tour couldn't just say no to everyone, but they also couldn't say yes to everyone. So they needed something in the middle. Enter the Returning Member Program. On January 12, 2026, the PGA Tour made an announcement. They were creating a formal pathway for LIV players to return. It sounded reasonable on paper. There was a one-time application window from January 12th to February 2nd. Players had to commit to playing at least 15 events. They had to make a $5 million charitable donation, and they had to forfeit their tour equity for 5 years. But here's the detail that changed everything. To even be eligible to apply, a player had to have won either the Players' Championship or a major championship between 2022 and 2025. Because if you look at the list of LIV defectors, a specific group of players suddenly became eligible. 4 players to be exact. They had won majors or the Players' Championship within that window. They could come back. They could apply. They could pay the price and rejoin the tour. But one name was conspicuously missing from that list. The biggest name of them all. The man who started this entire war. Phil Mickelson. And the reason? His last major victory was the 2021 PGA Championship at Kiawah Island. A win that happened 1 year before the cutoff. 1 year. That's all that separated him from eligibility. One single year that made the difference between being welcomed back and being permanently shut out. 4 players got the golden ticket. But the man who started this whole war, he got something else entirely. First, there's Brooks Koepka. Koepka was the first LIV player to officially apply and return. His situation was unique because he never fully burned his bridges. When the returning member program was announced, Koepka was the first in line. He agreed to everything. The $5 million donation, the 15 events, the 5-year equity forfeiture. He paid the price and walked back through the door. What does his return mean? It means the tour is willing to forgive you if you didn't make things personal. They'll take you back if you keep your mouth shut and pay the fine. Then there's Bryson DeChambeau. Bryson is eligible because he won the 2024 US Open. But his return won't be as smooth as Koepka's. Why? Because Bryson joined the antitrust lawsuit against the tour. He sued them. And the tour doesn't forget that. Reports indicate Bryson faces additional scrutiny and the steepest punishment of anyone applying. The tour will let him back, but they're going to make him crawl over broken glass to do it. They'll review his application harder. They'll delay his approval longer. They'll make sure everyone knows that suing the tour comes with consequences. Third is Jon Rahm. This is the one the tour actually wants back. Rahm was the biggest name LIV poached after Mickelson. He was the reigning Masters champion when he left. He was at the peak of his powers, and unlike Phil or Bryson, Rahm never really trashed the tour. He just took the money and left. Brooks, Bryson, Jon, and Cam all had their path back. The man who paved the road, he wasn't invited to walk on it. Phil Mickelson. The man who started it all. The biggest star to leave. And now, the one player the tour is determined to keep out. Let's look at the math. Mickelson's last major win was the 2021 PGA Championship at Kiawah Island. He was 50 years old when he won it, becoming the oldest major champion in golf history. It was one of the greatest moments in the sport's history. But that victory happened in 2021. The returning member program requires a major win between 2022 and 2025. That means Phil's win is exactly 1 year too old. 1 year. If the cutoff had been 2021 instead of 2022, Phil would be eligible. If the committee had extended the window by just 12 months, Phil could apply. But they didn't. Was that an accident? Some people might say it was just bad luck, a bureaucratic oversight, a harmless coincidence. But here's the thing about coincidences in professional golf. They usually aren't coincidences. Golf journalist Alan Shipnuck, who has covered Mickelson for years, made a very specific observation. He said the cutoff was designed to spite Mickelson. That's a direct quote. Designed to spite him. Not an accident, not an oversight, a deliberate choice. Think about that for a second. The committee that wrote the rules knew exactly who would be affected. They knew Phil's last major was 2021. They knew he would be the most prominent player excluded, and they made the cutoff 2022 anyway. Why? Because the people running the tour were tired of Phil Mickelson, tired of his public attacks, tired of his lawsuit, tired of his entitlement. They wanted to send a message, and the message was simple. You can leave the tour, but you can't come back when it's convenient for you. Not when you're Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods. Not just a member. According to multiple reports, Tiger took a leading role in formulating the program. He helped shape the stipulations. He helped design the punishments. He was one of the key decision makers in the entire process. Let that sink in. The same Tiger Woods who was offered up to $800 million to join LIV Golf and said no. The same Tiger Woods who stayed loyal to the tour while other players took the Saudi money. The same Tiger Woods who has always had a complicated relationship with Phil Mickelson. That Tiger Woods helped write the rule that specifically excluded his oldest rival. This isn't speculation. This is confirmed. Tiger was on the committee. He helped build the program. He knew exactly what he was doing. And the personal history between these two men makes this so much more than just business. Remember 2021? That was the year Phil won the PGA Championship at 50 years old. The same year Tiger was recovering from his car accident, fighting just to walk again. While Phil was celebrating his greatest achievement, Tiger was wondering if he'd ever swing a club again. Then came the LIV split. Phil left, Tiger stayed. Phil trashed the tour. Tiger defended it. Phil sued the tour. Tiger helped build the rule that would keep him out. This is personal, deeply personal, and Tiger didn't hide from it. Tiger slammed the door shut. But the lock? That cost Phil $60 million. Now let's talk about that number. $60 million. Where does it come from? What does it actually mean? Remember that 5-year equity forfeiture I mentioned earlier? That's the killer. When players leave the tour, they forfeit their equity in the tour's future profits. And that equity is worth a lot of money. PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolap estimated that forfeited equity and bonuses for returning players could total between $50 million and $85 million. For someone like Phil Mickelson, who had been on the tour for decades and had accumulated significant equity, the number sits right around $60 million. Add to that the lost FedEx Cup bonus for 2026. Add the $5 million charitable donation. Add the fact that Phil would have to play at least 15 events just to maintain status, meaning he couldn't pick and choose his schedule like he used to. That's the price of coming back. And Phil doesn't have it. Or more accurately, he can't afford to pay it. Because at 55 years old, paying $60 million to come back means he's basically playing for free for 5 years. He'd be working for the tour without getting paid. And the tour knows that. So when we say Tiger blocked Phil's return, we don't mean Tiger personally called the commissioner and said keep him out. What we mean is Tiger helped create a system that made it financially impossible for Phil to come back. He didn't need to veto Phil's application. He just needed to make sure Phil could never afford to apply in the first place. $60 million to come back. But there was one more reason the tour said no. The one that made forgiveness impossible. In 2022, Phil joined 10 other LIV players in filing an antitrust lawsuit against the PGA Tour. The lawsuit alleged that the tour was engaging in anti-competitive behavior by suspending players who joined LIV. It was a legal attack on the very foundation of the tour's business model, and Phil was the face of it. Brooks Koepka didn't join the lawsuit. Jon Rahm didn't join it. Cameron Smith didn't join it. They took the money, but they didn't sign the legal papers. They kept their heads down and hoped the tour would eventually forgive them. Phil didn't do that. He went to war. He put his name on the lawsuit. He publicly attacked the tour's leadership. He made it clear that he was willing to burn the whole thing down if he didn't get what he wanted. When the returning member program was announced, the tour made a very specific distinction. Players who had joined the antitrust lawsuit would face additional scrutiny, the steepest scrutiny. They would be reviewed more carefully. Their applications would take longer. Their punishments would be harsher. Translation: the tour will forgive you for taking the money. They'll even forgive you for leaving. But they will never forgive you for suing them. That's a line you can't uncross. Phil crossed it, and the tour made sure he would pay for it. Phil went to war on every front, and now he's standing alone on an island with no boat. So where does that leave Phil Mickelson today? Former ESPN host Trey Wingo put it about as bluntly as you can. He said the bridge between Phil and the tour has been burned, detonated, nuked, and lasered to death. There is no building that bridge back. When the returning member program was announced, Phil posted 3 emojis on X. A hand covering a mouth and 2 crying laughter faces. That was his entire response. He didn't write a statement. He didn't give an interview. He just posted emojis and moved on. Publicly, he says he doesn't care. He says he loves LIV. He says he couldn't be happier. But privately, the situation is very different. The Saudi PIF funding is shaky. Reports suggest they may pull backing after the 2026 season. If that happens, LIV could collapse. And if LIV collapses, Phil has nowhere to go. He can't go back to the tour. The door is locked. The bridge is burned. The rule was written specifically to keep him out. He's stranded. He has his $200 million, but what does that mean if he can't compete? What does that mean if he can't play in the majors? What does that mean if he's reduced to playing exhibition matches and senior tours, while his former rivals compete for real championships? Phil Mickelson wanted to beat the system. He wanted to take the money and the power and the freedom and build something new. Instead, the system beat him. And the man who helped build that system was his oldest rival. One person who understood exactly how to keep him out. Tiger Woods didn't just block Phil's return. He made sure Phil would never even get the chance to try. And that's the ultimate irony of this entire story. Phil left because he thought the tour was greedy. He thought the players deserved more money, more control, more freedom. He took the Saudi millions and called it a victory for player rights. But that greed made him a pariah. That money made him a traitor. That freedom made him irrelevant. Tiger stayed. Tiger stayed loyal. Tiger defended the tour. And now Tiger controls the keys to the kingdom. He sits on the board. He helps write the rules. He decides who gets to come back and who doesn't. And the worst part for Phil? He has no one to blame but himself. He chose to leave. He chose to attack. He chose to sue. Every door that closed, he closed himself. So now he's standing on the outside looking in. He has all the money in the world, but he can't play the game he loves at the highest level anymore. He's a legend without a stage, a champion without a tour, a winner who backed the wrong horse and lost everything that mattered. Phil Mickelson wanted to beat the system. Instead, the system, with Tiger Woods at the helm, beat him. And the worst part? He has no one to blame but himself.